everyone. Welcome back to 209 Prep Sports. Back in the studio with Scott Bryant today. We also have Coach Frost out of Escalon on the phone as we speak. How you doing today, buddy?
Oh, what a beautiful day, overcast and looking like rain. This is football season, brother.
Yes, sir. You guys got to be pretty happy about how things played out. I mean, everybody kind of, I think, expected what would happen for you guys, but why don't you guys go ahead and give us a rundown on Escalon and what you guys are looking at this playoff season?
Man, well, first off, to run the TVL undefeated 5-0, to win the TVL by 2 games, outright by 2 games. If you would have said that at the beginning of the season, there's no way I would have bet that. There's not a chance. I mean, even, we were talking about the Greek, Jimmy the Greek. I don't even think Jimmy the Greek bets that, right?
Yeah.
It was a gauntlet of a run. And couldn't be more proud of our senior class. That senior class, when they were on JV, were 4-6. When they were freshmen, they were 1-9. So it's something to say about this class putting in work. I'm excited to go to the playoffs with these guys because they're hungry. They're not done yet. And obviously we get the number 1 seed, which looks like a great seed. But if you look at the next round matchup, you would have either 8-2 Woodland or 7-2 Colfax, who was a league champion. They stick Colfax in a 9 seed as a league champion. That means they really have high hopes on the TVL, putting Ripon at the 5 and Hillmar at the 6, and you put a league champion at the 9. I'm not saying we wanted to play Ripon or Hillmar again, but, it's kind of interesting the way that they set out these brackets. I'm sure Colfax played in a less competitive league, let's say, but in the end, you're a league champion. You're 7-2. You go undefeated in the league, and you're on the road in the first round. I don't really understand that. I'm sure Linden has that same feeling.
Yeah, I think collectively, I mean, it's hard. You're trying to jam, whatever it is, 70, 80 teams into this playoff bracket and find, the right landing spot for everybody. I think I think every bracket has a complaint. I mean, if you really want to, get under the hood, I mean, I don't know. Like for me, let's play. Like, I mean, they weren't going to give us a bye. Our league canceling too many games or forfeiting too many games. Our strength of schedule got depleted, even though we took on anybody and everybody and loaded up our schedule. We weren't rewarded for that. And then you go to D1 and you got a team like Folsom goes 1-3 their last 4 games, getting outscored 102-38, and they end up with the 3 seed and a bye. So.
Right.
St. Mary.
A lot of it is tradition and history.
Yep.
Success in previous playoffs. I'm sure that's why they rewarded the TVL with higher seeds. But also, if you get rewarded with a higher seed in the Sac Joaquin section playoffs and say Escalon wins the D5, they're not going to put us in a D5 bowl game. They're going to move us up. Last year, we had to go play D3 Pleasant Valley up in Chico.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to get moved up in the Sac Joaquin section, but it's another thing, when you start catching teams later after that. But, Woodland, Colfax, going back to that, they played each other already earlier this year, week 1. The date says 8/27, so August 27th. I'm guessing that was week 1. And Woodland beat Colfax 20-10. So really, it was a close game. And as a coach, when you're scouting, you see a score like that. Now we got to scout both teams.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Really no way we're going to drive up to Woodland and watch this in person. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 of the coaches are, but there's so many other good games in the area. I think I might stick local around here. I might even go check you guys out Friday night.
Well, let's go ahead and get into your guys' bracket, and then we'll run the D6 bracket. D7 won't be out till next Sunday, so but you have a lot of knowledge in that, and obviously some VOL knowledge as well. But being this is a like you've already mentioned, 3 teams from the TVL getting into this, and then kind of putting Sonora up there was kind of also with them having such a weak league, getting a bye and the 3 seed. I thought that was kind of suspect, but. Why don't you I mean, do you happen to have the bracket in front of you? Want to just go game by game, I guess?
Yeah, I do. I've been studying the D5 and D6. I haven't really looked at the other brackets too much. In the D5 bracket, you have 5 league champions. You have Escalon winning the TVL. You have Sonora, like you just said, they won the mother load. And, they got that 3 seed, and I'm actually in favor of that because of their league dominance. I mean, they put it on the Motherlode League this year, so I don't blame them. They scheduled up in the preseason, so I think they're fine. They're at the 3 seed. You got Pioneer. I don't know a whole lot of Pioneer. I believe they're out of that Golden Empire League up north. But they're a league champion, and then we just talked about Colfax. They're a league champion. So you got 5 league champions in the bracket. You got Escalon and Hillmore on the same side of the bracket. As an Escalon coach, you're kind of hoping they put all the TVL teams on the opposite side, and you don't have to see them again until the championship. But hey, like you tell anybody in the playoffs, you're going to have to eventually beat the big dog.
Yeah.
So if you beat them in the first round or you beat them in the championship, you're going to have to go through them at some point.
Yeah.
That's what we tell the boys. We're excited for this. We're excited for the challenge. Like I said, the bracket, it looks like you have Escalon as the 1. You have Union Mine up there as the, I didn't even mention Union Mine. They're a league champion. You have Union Mine as the 2 seed, and they're a league champion. So, I mean, we got some teams. The D5 bracket is going to be some hitters, and I think we're excited for the challenge. Escalon's 800 kids. Most of the schools in this bracket, I think other than Hillmar, are 1,000-plus kids, So we're taking on some big boys, and we're excited to do that. I think, I tell a lot of our guys, it's not a punishment to be moved up. It's an honor. It's telling you that they think you're good. They think this program is worthy of the challenge, and we accept any challenge coming our way. So we're excited for it. It's not a punishment. It's an honor.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, going back to that Sonora at number 3, that's an interesting one for me because, yeah, they're the Motherlode League champions, but I would say of all the leagues, the Motherlode League was probably pretty down this year, which is not typical. So their strength of schedule just in league play, it's an interesting fit for them coming in at 3, but that's one of those teams that I don't think you're going to want to sleep on. I think they may be better than a 3. But, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, as the season goes on, if you're a good team, you're getting better as the weeks go. And when you watch Sonora, they are getting better every week. That is what you want as a coach. Shit, I think one of their boys just got a full ride offer to Fresno State, the Alderman kid, the lineman. He's only a junior,
Nice.
That feeds your ego. That gets you going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gets all your boys around you. They start going, man, I'm playing with a D1 athlete. I must be. It gets all the boys fired up. And then plus, Sonora knocked off Ripon. And I know Ripon was down, and it was earlier in the year. And, Ripon didn't start off too hot and didn't finish too hot. But it's still Ripon. And you knocked off a state champion, a previous state champion from the last postseason run. And I think they rewarded that as well. And, you talk about the Motherlode League. I think Argonaut's a team to watch. I mean, we're talking about D6 now, but, the overall, in a sense, was down. Yes, Calaveras was down. Yes, Bret Hart didn't have a team. I thought Argonaut was better this year.
Oh, yeah.
Somerville was a lot better this year. Somerville took Houston to overtime.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a league that, if you start putting some pieces together, you can make a solid team. And I think that's what Sonora has, is they have a lot of kids from other schools in the area that kind of gave up on football, and they let those kids transfer into Sonora, and those kids have they have a bite to them, they're hungry.
Yep.
They want this. Those kids, they love football, and they're in it to win it. So I'm not surprised they got the 3 seed. I thought maybe they'd be the 4 seed, but they earned it.
Before we jump out of the D5 bracket and into the 6, we got a couple guys on today as well. To talk about the higher brackets and just kind of get some impressions about what everybody thought. But I think this bracket's going to be probably the most physical bracket as far as games are concerned. I think a lot of, really tough. Everybody wants to impose their will, kind of run it down your throat a little bit. You don't have a lot of spread teams in this bracket. I mean, you're going to have some, variations of different stuff. But I think, collectively, top to bottom, this might be it, the toughest bracket out there. D1, you're going to get into D1, you're going to have the top 8 that are different than everybody else, and then the bottom, is just not there. D2, I think you have the top, 6 to 8 are pretty good. So kind of all the way along the lines, but in this bracket, I don't think you get a night off. I mean, I just don't see, Ripon might not have too tough a time with Ceres and Hillmar with Los Banos, but Casa Robles and El Camino are going to, they're going to give each other fits, and then you get into the second round. And like you said, it's very likely that you have 6 league champions playing out of the 8 teams that are still available. So it's going to be a tough bracket. I mean, I think you guys are lined up well. I think you got the right side of the bracket, and you'll have to get into Hillmar or Union Mine or Sonora probably, in the championship game, should you be lucky enough to make it there.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about TVL, about Hillmar, didn't really talk about Hillmar, so their first matchup will be Los Banos, a team that they beat by about 20 points earlier this year. Their second matchup would be up the hill at Sonora if they did knock off Los Banos, and that's another team that they've already faced this year. And as a coach, it's tough to beat a good team twice.
Yep.
So I think, like you said, once that second round gets going in D5, it's going to be quite the bracket. I think there's going to be a lot of teams beating up on each other, and we're definitely taking our vitamins.
Well, I appreciate your input on 5. Now let's roll into D6. What do you get? What do you got there?
Hey, honestly, this is being honest, and while my team's in the 5, I look at this 6 bracket, and I have no clue, man. I look at teams that we just played Livingston, and I thought Livingston was more than advertised. I thought that offense was prolific. We could not stop their screen game. We could not stop their pass game. Everything they did set up something else. Coach down there at Livingston has those Wolfpack, man. They're hungry. They're ready to go. And, I look at it from the Linden standpoint. From your standpoint, you got to be fortunate they're on the other half of the bracket,
Yep.
And for you guys, you get that rematch with Bradshaw Christian, hopefully, in the second round. And you knock off the 1 seed, boom, confidence through the roof, right?
Yes, sir.
Win this whole thing. So I like where Linden's set up. I think if Linden can sneak by that first game, I think Linden's going to do some damage, So teams that I fear in the D6 bracket, this is just a TBL coach. Houston's starting to figure it out. Houston has brought that freshman quarterback up, probably the second or third game of league. You saw them struggle there for a few weeks, and they started putting it together. The freshmen started figuring out. They go into Ripon, and they knock off Ripon the last game of the season. I think that's the victory that jumps them all the way up into that 2 seed. They don't knock off Ripon, you might have Livingston there on your side of the bracket,
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And just to round out the rest of the bracket, so you've got like you said, Bradshaw Christian's the number 1 seed, Argonauts the number 2 seed, Livingston. Sorry, I'm tongue tied here for a second. They're so exciting I can't even say their name. Livingston's the number 3 seed, and Houston's the 4 seed. So you've got those top 4 seeds with a bye, and then you've got Linden hosting Oristemba. Linden's 8, Oristemba's 9. Rosemont at 5, hosting Delhi, who's a 12. Waterford is hosting Somerville. That could be a pretty interesting game. Waterford getting their first loss in the last game.
Yeah. Shoved into a 6 seed,
Yeah.
They're pissed off.
For sure. And then Liberty Ranch gets the number 7 seed. I'm not sure that I completely understand that one, but they get the number 7 seed, and they're hosting Gustine at the 10 seed. So I agree with you, Frost. I think this is going to be a very interesting bracket, and maybe this is the 6 Division 6 bracket might be one of the more evenly matched brackets from top to bottom. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
I played in the D6 2019 when Escalon made that big run at state, and we really didn't run into anybody until Hillmar in the championship. Every team that you just listed can beat the number 1 seed in D5. Every team you just listed can beat Escalon. And I'm Escalon's coach. I love Escalon. I don't want to say we're this or we're that, but I promise you, Houston had us on the ropes. Livingston had us on the ropes. We did not play, we played Linden. We did not play Bradshaw Christian, but Bradshaw played Linden tough. Linden played us tough. I think this is one of the toughest brackets there is this D6 bracket. And, one team, like obviously I said, as a TVL guy, I like Houston and I like Livingston. But I kind of wish Houston and Livingston would have flipped seeds, because in the second round you would have got Houston versus Waterford. And those schools are about 5 miles apart. And all those kids played Pop Warner together. And that would have been one hell of a battle. But I think Livingston beat Houston 28-0. So, again, that's when Houston brought up the freshman quarterback. They were trying to figure things out. And they got pushed around there for a few weeks. But I think if Houston played Livingston again, that game would be a hell of a battle. So I love that bracket. I think Argonaut, we talked about them. they got probably the best running back and the best team they've had in 10 years. So, I mean, you got a wide open bracket there, and I'm just so excited for postseason football. We missed this last year, all the pageantry, all these prediction shows, all those old people barking about seeds. You know, you kind of missed all this with the COVID season, and now you get to see those kids be rewarded. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I found myself yesterday getting into some conversations with people on Twitter about how these things, you know, the equity and, you know, favoritism. And I was more, you know, everybody kind of played the St. Mary's Lincoln against each other, and like one of them should get the 4. And I was like, why are we skipping Folsom? Like, and I get it, like past success, but I mean, to get flat out rolled for 3 games, you don't deserve the 3. And you're losing at the end of the season, not at the beginning of the season, not like Monterey Trail, who takes on anybody and everybody their first 5 and gets smacked up pretty good, but then they run their league. You know, you're talking about a complete different situation and Folsom took an injury to their quarterback. I know they're depleted, but they got a seed based on what they were and what they might be rather than what they are. And I think that's where it's unfair. You know, we didn't, and before we get out of the 6 bracket, the one team that we hadn't talked a whole lot about is Rosemont. And this is kind of the one that gets thrown into the D6 bracket that's kind of questionable. They have a 1,700 enrollment. You know,
I saw that. It doesn't make sense. You know, they consider it a punishment when a team gets moved up, and they consider it a reward when a team moves down. But really, who's it rewarding? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The team is not rewarding anybody else. So yeah, I totally understand where you guys are looking at on that. I mean, obviously their strength of schedule must not be much if they're going to let them slip down into that bracket. But I couldn't agree more. You know, you have a team, if you got 1,700 students, you probably got 60 players on varsity. You know, a guy goes down, you probably got the next man up.
Yeah.
It definitely favors a larger school. Look at Livingston. They're probably 1,200 kids.
And Liberty Ranch. Yeah. Yeah, Liberty Ranch is another relatively big school. You know, we were fortunate. I mean, we played Liberty Ranch. You know, we played Bradshaw, and then Bradshaw just beat up on Rosemont last week to win the league. So otherwise, Bradshaw, you know, could have been in a different spot. So, you know, I think that the way this whole thing will play itself out, much like you said, I think this is anybody's bracket. I mean, Argonaut is tough, you know, and I think Argonaut the thing that makes Argonaut the most tough is how many guys that get the ball. You know, you can't key on one. You look on a Friday night, I mean, an Argonaut's got 10 guys that carried the ball, you know, and some of it is because they're blowing teams out and they're getting other guys in. I understand that. But on any given tough game, it's 5 or 6. So you're not going to be able to just key on, you know, 22. Yeah, you know, you're going to be in a tough spot.
I couldn't agree more on that, man, and I totally feel you on, you know, we're talking about competitive equity, the word competitive equity, and you look at it, right? Let's say in our area, you got a school like Grace Davis that goes 10-0, and they play in that WAC league. If Escalon played against Grace Davis, I think we would have no problem moving the ball on them. But technically, they're a Division II school, right?
Yeah.
So they get thrown up into these brackets when they play in a D4 league. You know, and I heard someone say the other day, talking about Scott's theory of European football, right?
Yep.
You almost have to create these divisions where you earn your way into a division or you earn your way into a bracket, because honestly, school size is irrelevant now, you know? Especially with open enrollments, you could be Kimball High and take every kid from Tracy and make a dominant team and go D4, and they're going to run shop for a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I don't know. I don't really think they can go on enrollment anymore. They're going to have to figure out a solution to make competitive leagues or competitive teams, or like Scott says, you make football-only leagues with 2 tiers. You earn your way into that top tier, and if you make it in the top tier, you get those good playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, you know, that applies to just about any sport. You know, we focus on football, but it is workable, it's doable, and there's a way to do it that it's fair to everyone. But we just have to have an organization, a governing body that has the ability to think outside the box instead of just doing it the way that we've always done it.
Right.
So
You just
No.
Go off of enrollment, Escalon's back in your D6 bracket.
Yeah.
You know, or we could even Hillmar. Some of these schools, Central Catholic would qualify for D7.
Yep.
You know
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter anymore. And the whole public versus private, I think that kind of fell off. Yes, there's some great private schools, but look at some of these, you know, look at Rockland. Look at some of these schools, man. They're putting together programs. They're going to go challenge some of these private schools. They're going to enter these bowl games, and they're going to make a run, you know. And it's really nice to see De La Salle lose.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I'm tired of that. It's over.
Well, and so before we kind of cut out of here, because we're going to have you on every week. I mean, it's until this whole thing's over. You know, you have provide a lot of good insight for us. You know, and actually the listeners too. You know, because we can't all get to where we need to be able to cover these games properly. But the one thing for me, I think that if we can figure something, if the CIF or if the high school would just get away from the CIF, somebody could structure this in a way that's equitable. You know, I mean, the problem, here's a perfect example, Edison. So Edison plays in a league that the second team in their league, they beat 70-0, the second place team. You know, how can you determine, and they get put into the playoffs based on wins against Lincoln and somebody early. That was,
Right, like week 2.
10 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. It's like, that's not, look, you just talked about Houston. It's the same thing. So Houston, a month ago, everybody was like, I want to play Houston. And now do people really want to play Houston? I mean, you know, it's like, or any of these, you know, Ripon was the same way. Sonora was the same way. You know, everybody kind of thought Calaveras would bounce out of their conundrum that they have going on up there, which they didn't, you know. And so that's where I think if the CIF or whoever fixes or tries to fix this situation, if you don't start loading up, you know, like it should be a St. Mary's-ish, you know, St. Mary's, Edison, you know, you put in maybe Central Catholic. So you have to have a dominant league in the southern part of the state or of the section. Otherwise, you're never going to get what you deserve. I mean, you know, and that's the reality of, and even like Escalon, I think Escalon flourishes this year because you step up and play a Kimball, you know, you step up and play, you know, to take on some teams that, you know, and then your league is so tough that, and they all chose to do the same thing. So you got Hillmar and Ripon playing tough schedules, which keeps your strength of schedule up for your league, which you guys don't fall off when it comes to picking, you know, to getting the seedings, you know, so.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. And if I'm being honest, the TVL as a whole, I don't want to say it was down this year, but the TVL as a whole did not have that dominant team. We're Escalon. We're undefeated through the league, and I still don't think we were that dominant TVL team that you've seen of years past.
Yeah.
But this season, Escalon, Hillmar, Ripon, we got rewarded with great seats. You know what I'm saying? Because of previous past. The same thing with Folsom. They get rewarded with a higher seed because of previous past. And I understand that you have to, you know, show some respect and some love for that. But then on the flip side, I don't think I would have been pissed off if we were the 2 seed, you know?
Yeah.
You know, if Union Mine flips us or something like that, you know, because I don't think, you know, if you really went out there and watched the TVL this year, there was some great games.
Yeah.
There was some battles, but there wasn't that one dominant team that went through and just smashed everybody like previous years.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we got rewarded for being, you know, above average, but we weren't the greatest. But you look at, you know, Ripon and Hillmar get a higher seed than Colfax, who's a league champion.
Yeah.
You know, that's rewarding mediocrity.
Yep.
You know, so I feel you, my man. And then, you know, I want to let you go with this. I was going to call you Saturday night. About midnight, I saw that highlight of Cruz move left, throwing it across his body for about 80 yards. It looked like he could have thrown that thing over I-5 if he wanted to. I mean, that thing was a shot, brother. So I just want to say congratulations to Cruz. Man, St. Mary's, what a game, what a season. And, you know, I wish him the best of luck as their playoffs get going here. And I wish Linden the best of luck. You know, I'm all love for the TVL schools. But, you know, I just want to see everyone have some fun and enjoy this postseason because, damn, we missed it last year.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate having you on. Like I said, we'll reach out early next week. We'll probably get back to our Thursdays next week. We just wanted to hit on these brackets while they're fresh and hot and everybody's mind, and kind of just do a review of it. But your insight and your input, man, is second to none. We appreciate y'all, every week that you come on for us.
Man, I love the show. I love being a part of the show. I can tell you guys right now, every game after I coach, we go through that lineups and we shake hands. I got at least one or two coaches telling me, hey, I listened to the podcast. And it's out there. People are hearing it. It's getting bigger and bigger. And you know what? We love doing it, and I love being a part of it. So thank you guys.
Good stuff.
You bet. Thanks.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you much.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Peace out, Frost.
All right, thanks. So yeah, I mean, it's this whole thing, man, the way these brackets are and everything. It's just, I mean, and I think you and I are on the same page on a lot of things, the way we think, and I guess it's kind of like this it doesn't matter if it's the bracket of 62 or a 64 for the NCAA, or if it's, anytime that there's some arbitrary decisions made and you're not just doing it based on merit, where it's just not completely about how many wins you have or whatever. I think you're always going to have some conflict.
Yeah, there's always going to be, like you said, there's going to be some opinions and kind of what they feel are negative matchups. But, it is what it is. You still got to go out and you got to win the game to move on. And if you have a goal of winning a section championship, then basically you need to be able to beat any team that's in that bracket, because you don't know who you're going to match up with if you, in any given week. So, real quick, we'll do a just kind of a peek into the Division II bracket and how that matches up. You've got the number 1 seed, Central Catholic, who, of course, they'll have a bye in the first round. That's just on fire right now. I think they're prepped and ready to position themselves for a state bowl game, but they're going to have to get past a tough Granite Bay team, who's the number 2 seed, if they both match up in the finals. And then at 3, you've got Vacaville, who is really pumping on all cylinders right now. They're going to be a tough team. And then Antelope is the 4 seed. The one team that I kind of want to highlight here, the one team that we thought from our area that really had a great year, and they're rewarded by making the playoffs, is Lodi. Pulls the number 9 seed. They're going to be traveling down to Modesto to play the number 8 seed Downey. Very deserving of getting a playoff spot. They've had one heck of a schedule, and they played some top teams very tough. As you move down, Whitney, as the number 5 seed, is going to be hosting Intercom, who's the number 12 seed, and then Elk Grove is hosting Grigori. Elk Grove pulls the 6 seed. Grigori is the 11th seed. But the really interesting game in this bracket in the first round, and you had mentioned this before, a very tough Monterey Trail team. They're the 7 seed, maybe deserving of a little bit higher, but this is a pretty loaded bracket. They're going to be hosting Wood Creek in the first round of the playoffs. Both teams are very accomplished and very good.
Yeah, we're about to have Coach Duenas on here in just a little bit from Lodi. He's going to be calling in. But like you said, as you kind of go through, you go up and down this bracket and you look for a weakness, and I'm not sure that there is one. Even Inderkum at the 12 seed and, Wood Creek at the 10. Grigori has the dual threat, Cruz Marinas as a quarterback, and I think Cruz has passed for over 2,200 yards, 2,400 yards, and rushed for 1,000 or close to it. So, on a weekly basis, you're going to be getting guys that, that are, and I think this is where the teams that are more balanced, that they have the ability to do more than one thing. Unless you do that one thing really, really well, the DLS or Monterey Trail running the veer, and some of these guys, Sonora, of past, and Escalon's even, even opened it up a little bit, and they start to throw a little bit more. But, the teams that are able to throw and run, when you're multidimensional at the high school level, you put a lot of pressure on the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really highlighted what our section, if you were to pull out, we talked about early in the year, some of our most talented athletes in the section. Early on, we're looking at tight end. Like there's some amazing tight ends in our section, but this really is the year of the quarterback in the Sac Joaquin section. I mean, you just go down the list, and we've talked about a lot of them who are just putting the ball in the air all night and are successful. So, it's going to be interesting to see how many of these quarterbacks move on to the next level. I think there's going to be quite a few of them. I hope there is anyway, because there's an awful lot of talent in that position in the Sac Joaquin section.
Oh, for sure. And there's a lot of opportunity that's not, you don't have to play everybody doesn't have to play D1. I mean, everybody thinks that if you're not D1, you're not playing football. If you're playing football in college, I don't care what level it's at, and you're putting that time in and you're committing, you're doing something special. I mean, you're part of the elite. So, and talking about some of those quarterbacks, you have Connor Stoddard at Downey that Lodi's about to see. The kid can sling it. I mean, I think he's only a sophomore, maybe a junior, but he can chuck it a little bit. I mean, you got the Vacaville guy, he can rip it a little bit, and I think Granite Bay chucks it too. So, and the Central Catholic kid, they run the ball so much, that he doesn't throw as much as he needs to. But he's a 6'6" lefty that can just absolute flat get after it. So I think that this bracket is a very interesting bracket. I think Central Catholic and Granite Bay are probably the elite of the bracket, but like you said, you're getting Monterey Trail at a 7. Granite Bay can't be too excited about having to play Monterey Trail should Monterey Trail get through Wood Creek, they can't be too excited about having to go against Granite Bay and vice versa. So if you're Granite Bay and you're the 2, you're about to get a 7 Monterey Trail that I think that they won the section or played for the section title last year or 2 years ago when we were playing. But that, like we said, you run you're a systems type of an offense, like a veer or a wing T or modified wing T. It's a very difficult. If you do it right, it's very difficult to stop.
Yeah, that Monterey Trail team is I would imagine is a very pissed off team right now, and they're going to be very, very dangerous as they make their way through the playoffs. So in that bracket, I think that's kind of like my sleeper pick to maybe make it all the way to the finals, but it's going to be a tough road to get there.
For sure. Before we move on to the next bracket, Division 3 and Division 7 have not been selected yet. There's and many people are aware of what's going on, but it's in the courts right now. So because Ripon Christian and Capital Christian chose to play club football during COVID, the section decided to punish them by making them playoff ineligible. This is now in the court system, and there was a stay put in place last week, and I think it's being reviewed again today. And so after the decision is made today, they'll actually determine what those brackets are. So that's why we don't have 3 and 7. But here let's go ahead and move on to our next caller. We have George Duenas. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Coach?
Good. We're recording right now, so we'll go ahead and just get into it. We actually were just going through a review of your bracket. Before we get your opinion on it, I just want to tell you how excited I am for you. And I've seen you guys turn this program around and put yourself in a position to have, be in the conversation for at least a home game the first round. I know it probably didn't go the way you would have liked it to, but a 9 seed from where the program was to where the program is currently today, you guys should be very proud of yourself.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Coach, this is Scott Bryant. Hey, I just want to kind of echo what Chris is saying. It's been great to see Lodi return back to getting the program back to where you guys want it, and you're probably still not even there yet. I know that you guys have some pretty big goals for the Flames, and it's just really exciting to see that you guys are in the playoffs this year.
Like I said, thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.
So what are your impressions? I mean, I know you guys got film yesterday, and you guys are starting to open it up. And we don't want the game plan, but how do you think first of all, how do you feel? How are you feeling about the seeding? Are you thinking that's about right, or are you not too happy with it, or?
Well, I'm okay with it. I just get a little confused about how the seeding stuff works, because I don't understand how Christian Oaks got left out, but a couple teams that we beat in Division 1 got in.
Yeah.
That column system works. I don't get it.
I am with you. I mean, I can't for the life of me understand some of the decisions that were made. I mean, I'm much like you. I'm fine with our seeding, even if we would have been a 9 instead of an 8 and had to go to Oristimba, which we play. We're going to play at home, but so we're kind of in the same right in the landing area that you guys ended up in. But I don't get it. Like some of the stuff that happened, I'm like, I just don't understand. I mean, Rosemont's at school of 1,700 dropping down to D6. I don't like, how does that happen?
Yeah. And then that's what I'm saying. Like if, like Gregory would have ended up pushing us out if Cosumnes Oaks would have won. It's like the big schools are getting. It's like the only thing that some schools are doing wrong is their enrollment size.
Yeah,
that's not fair. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard us talk in the past, but I have some very special opinions about the CIF and the way that they do things, and there is a better way to do this. They just haven't considered it, and the hope is that they figure it out, because they really have a chance to make football just absolutely amazing in this section, but it's almost like it's being held back just a little bit by the decision makers.
Yeah.
So give us what are you thinking? I mean, how are you feeling about this week? Maybe give us a little bit of a highlight rundown of like who you guys are gonna. I mean, you don't want to give away like I said, you don't want to give away the complete game plan, but maybe give us an idea of who you guys relied on this year. What your strengths and weaknesses, not weaknesses, but where you guys had some strengths and what you're looking forward to for these kids going forward.
Well, I'm very excited. I'm excited we'll get to play. We play a lot of spread teams in our league, so I feel like we're well prepared. They don't play many beer option guys in their league, so I think we have a huge advantage about the stuff that we run. Defensively, we got a lot of guys that were injured back this past week.
Good.
So we're senior heavy on the defense. I got 9 seniors started, so I'm very excited for their opportunity. But our quarterback, Adam Schauberger / outside linebacker, he's been having a hell of a year for us. He's doing everything what we want. He's making the right reads.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for him. Bryce Powell stepped up big time for us in the run game. But we're averaging. I got 3 guys close to 1,000 yards.
Wow. That's pretty good. Yep.
Hoping we can get past it. But we're gonna run the ball, and we're gonna try to control the clock, keep that opponent offense off the field, and just do what we do. So I'm very excited. I mean, I was a little nervous during the proceedings. I was quite hoping to stay away from Allen Rowe.
Yeah.
They're like they look in the mirror.
And Monterey Trails in that same breath, right?
You look at those big dudes that can run the ball.
Yeah.
I kind of hope we stay away from those guys. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the opportunity. So
Coach, and seeing you play a couple times. The other thing I kind of want to highlight, I think your offensive line does a very good job. They've really done a nice job, like you said, having 3 running backs that are going to have 1,000 yards. That's got to be the biggest compliment that those guys could have.
Yeah, man, they did a good job, and we're not very big up front. I think we're averaging 185.
Well,
those guys get after it.
Well,
our line coach does a good job.
Yeah.
He's kind of a legend around here.
He kind of.
Yeah, he's played a little football in the past. I think he knows how to play the offensive line, but I think you could almost compare your guys' offensive line to those Super Bowl teams in the I think it was back in the 90s. Maybe I'm dating myself a little bit, but when the Denver Broncos won a couple of those Super Bowls, they had the smallest offensive line in the NFL, but they were so athletic and they got it done. I'd say that's probably a good way to describe your group.
Yeah, our guys can move, man. Yeah, and they're playing really well right now. We've seen a ton of different fronts. So I think Tokyo ran about 4 different fronts on us on Friday and didn't even blink an eye.
Yeah.
So they're playing really well right now.
Well, you guys are fortunate too, because you get to play, some tough teams, Lincoln, Lincoln and St. Mary's, and some of the, Tokay had a good preseason, but they kind of scheduled a little bit light. We got to play both of you guys in the spring last year, and the thing with us was, getting to play you guys is realizing, how physical you can be, even if you're not. And you guys are a little bit bigger, I think, than in the spring than an average 185 across the line. But you guys still weren't the biggest, most imposing team ever. But the kids they get after it. They don't make excuses. They'll miss a block, but then they're not going to miss the block the second time. So I think, and then you guys, getting exposure, and I know you guys gave St. Mary's a hell of a game. I think it was a 2-score game, and they kind of just, kind of did the same thing as you guys and managed the clock more or less, just trying to get out of there, and just get the game over with, which isn't typical St. Mary's. So that's got to be a feather in your guys' cap as far as, they have their respect for your program has gone up markedly for them.
Yeah, and I think because your Linden team in the spring was legit. I don't think many people know because it was the COVID year, but my spring team was pretty good too. With my D line was really good, and I think if you guys, if there was a season last year, I truly believe that Linden makes a deep run, possibly to such championship, and I think we had an opportunity to make the playoffs last year as well.
For sure, yeah.
Because that team, that Linden team was good, man.
Yeah.
You guys are playing pretty tough this year, but you guys had some dudes.
Well, we graduated to one of our running back was just a stud, so that hurt to lose it, but we're a little bit more balanced. But in reference to you guys, we have getting to see Adam, Schallberger play. His dad, his family is, much like Coach Bishop, come up through Lodi and get to see you guys bring them back to relevance, man. I can't say enough good stuff about what you guys have done up there. And I think probably the most impressive thing, and we kind of went opposite of you guys. We got away from the veer and went to the spread, and you guys, everybody kind of wants to go to the spread because it's sexy and it's exciting and it's fun. But you guys kind of recognize what you're good at. You have Coach Bishop that, kind of gets it a little bit, even though, your line's 185. I think he might be the lightest one on the line if he played today. I couldn't believe how skinny the guy was last time I saw him. Yeah. So I think it's very impressive for you guys. I'm super excited for you guys. You have anything to say on the way out the door before I know you got to get back to work and you guys are going to get on the field here soon, but.
No, man, this is really appreciated. We're just trying to grind it out, do things the right way over here, and I'm really excited that it's kind of showing. With my fourth year, so this is my first 4-year class, and we're able to make the playoffs. So I'm excited. The kids are excited for this week. We have a chance against a good Downey team, and then the monster awaits.
Do you do yourself a favor, or do you not do yourself a favor winning this game? Yeah, they're a monster. So. Hey, Coach, good luck to you this week. I'll be rooting for you. I mean, I'll be keeping an eye out on Max Preps, and should you guys pull through this week, maybe either way, I'll reach out to you again next week and get your thoughts.
Sounds good, Coach. Thank you. Good luck to you as well, Coach.
Thank you much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye.
Yeah, so that great insight by the coach at Lodi High School. He's just done a tremendous job there, really getting that team back to relevance again, I guess is one way to put it. And I know that he's going to continue taking that team to the next level. As we move on, we'll take a quick peek at the Division IV bracket. And again, I think we're saying this every time we look at a bracket, but this is a loaded bracket again. I mean, you've got the number 1 seed and very deserving of a number 1 seed, Kimball, getting a bye in the first round, and then the number 2 seed, Union Mine. They'll also get a bye, followed up with the number 3 seed Vista Del Lago getting a bye, and number 4 the Merced Bears also getting a bye. But then you go down from top to bottom and you look at some of these games. Wood's going to be the number 8 seed, and they're hosting Nevada Union, who is never an easy out. East Union getting the number 5 seed, and deservedly so. They'll be taking on a tough Del Campo team. Luke Weaver's going to look for him to have another great night throwing the ball. And then going down, Placer is the number 6 seed taking on West Park on the number 11 seed. And then rounding out the bracket is number 7 Dixon will be hosting number 10 El Camino. So, much like the other brackets that we've already talked about, this is sizing up to be a very, very tough bracket.
Yeah, I mean, I think, anybody and everybody will agree that Kimball's the elite of this group. I mean, they're just a little bit different. They're going to be difficult for anybody to stop on offense. They're good enough on defense. They're not great on defense, but they're good enough on defense to hold you, stop you enough times that they're going to score enough times that should be difficult. I think that Wood and Nevada Union will both struggle with their offense. East Union gave Kimball a hell of a game the other night. Getting the 5 seed, so they would actually potentially, if they can get through Del Campo and then Merced, there could be a rematch there in the semis. So, and then have Vista Del Lago and Vanden are just different too. So, it's got to be, I think there's gonna be a nice little run here by somebody. Somebody's gonna play, and maybe somebody steps up that we don't see. I could see an East Union with a dual threat like Luke Weaver being a very difficult matchup for a lot of teams. One injury to any of these teams could change them quite a bit. Vanden playing a very difficult schedule over there. Pondo being a 10 seed is, they're a perennial tough, they're just a tough matchup for anybody. So I think this is a very difficult bracket to predict. I do think that there are a few of the elite teams. I think from like the 1 to 4 brackets, you're always going to have the top 8 or 10 are going to be the top. And then there's teams getting in that they want to get in, but at the end of the day, they're just going to be a little bit overmatched. But I think a couple of years ago, Monterey Trail came in like at a 10 or 11 and went on a run. So, I mean, it's not outside the realm of reason to think that somebody may be able to do that. We do have some breaking news as we happen to be recording, which is crazy that the courts actually ruled on the availability of Capital Christian and Ripon Christian, actually just Capital Christian today. So the court ruled that Capital Christian can be banned from D3 playoffs following this morning's appeal. So they do not get in to the playoffs this year, which I think both of us are in agreement that that's sad to think that a team that's deserving doesn't get in because adults chose to. I mean, so if these kids sat on their own accord, does that change anything? So, I mean, I just think it's pretty unfortunate that you're punishing, children. And I don't know why the court couldn't come to the resolution other than the fact that the CIF is its own boss. I mean, and they have their rules, and I don't think courts are typically inclined to jump in and circumvent the rules that are in place, or rulings that are in place by independent factions. And this goes back to our conversation, that we've had multiple times, mostly throughout COVID, and really, the biggest thing I think is for all of it is that, when you're having decisions that are being made that are not conventional, and you have these kids that are going to have to suffer through this, I don't know that this is the right decision. It's too bad that it had to go to the courts, but I think at the end of the day, the CIF missed here, and the CIF is the ones that laid down the ruling. And I understand it. I'm not saying I don't understand it. I just don't know that I believe that that's the right thing to do. I don't think that we should be in the position of taking things away from student athletes or kids. I definitely don't think that we should be in the business of taking away deserving athletes and teams from situations that they've earned. Don't let them. They played the entire season, and you're going to take them out of playoffs. They didn't really do anything. They didn't cheat. They didn't steal. They didn't, hurt. Do anything that would. They played football. They just played, and they happened to play football outside of big brother watching and doing whatever. But all the rest of us played football too. They didn't get to, they might have played a few more games than some of us got to play. I think it was 4 to 6 games is what you got in the spring. So they might have got 6 to 8 games, but that didn't make them any better.
Yeah. And I'm going to be the Brian Bosworth, person here on this whole thing. And it's easy for me to say because I'm not coaching. I'm not affiliated with any high school in the area, but CIF really needs to get their head out of their ass. This is terrible. This is terrible news. This is unfair. They make these rules that really have no effect on the game. Having these kids play club football, they're just playing the game that they love. And so by doing that, and again, things might have been out, like you said, outside the realm of their choices, but they just wanted to play football, and you're punishing them for that. So shame on you, CIF. This is a black eye to you guys, I think, one of many that you guys have had over the years. Just I really wish that some of these schools had the ability to say, you know what, we're going to get out, we're going to form our own organization, we're going to govern ourselves and be able to make decisions that are in the best interest of the student athlete, because I just don't think that's what's going on here. So I digress.
I totally could see the parochial schools getting together, because there were some public schools that played, and public schools that played that are actually in the playoffs, that played club football, that get to play playoffs this year, and they don't have to sit. So I don't know how this decision came about for the CIF. I don't know what the underlying factors are, but if I'm Cap Christian and Ripon Christian and of the like, and if I'm the St. Mary's and Central Catholics of the world, knowing that these types of decisions are being made and almost targeting my school, I would start thinking about a parochial league that's outside of the CIF. I mean, maybe that's the first start to kind of self-governing and giving you a chance to have a better quality and a better, more competitively or equitable league, because you're setting it up yourself. So,
yeah, amen. See what I did there?
So moving into the D3 bracket, it's loaded. I mean,
is there a bracket? There isn't a bracket that's not loaded. These are good problems to have, man.
Sure. We're going to get into the D7 bracket that may be released today. Now, I don't know. They said next week they would release the D7 bracket, because D7 actually falls behind a week anyway. They started the same time, but they actually get done a week early. So I think they're just going to push it back and not be in any huge rush. It's unfortunate. I'm pretty close to the guys at Ripon Christian, so I feel for those guys, and they are good guys, and their kids are good people, and those seniors, they decided to play football so that they had a pretty decent sized senior class, so those seniors would get to play. That was the thought process. It wasn't, let's see how we can get around the rules. It was like, how are we going to get these seniors who've laid it on the line for us for the last 3 years, their senior season? I mean, we all had to make tough decisions during COVID. I had to make a tough decision during COVID. We had a war, and I shouldn't use war when talking about a football game. We had a tough game against Tokay, and we lost 2 linemen in the game, and we'd already had 2 guys already out. 2 were in casts already. One ended up having to have ACL surgery, so we were down to like a 13-man roster, and we just couldn't field the team, to get healthy, so we would be able to have a senior night the following week. So we canceled a game against Sac High, and that was my decision. The coaches and I discussed it. We were in a tough spot. I felt terrible for Sac because they missed out on a game. But at the end of the day, we had to make a decision what was best for the 2 seniors that we had, so they'd be able to play on senior night. And had we played that prior week, we wouldn't have had a senior night, because likely the guys that were able to get healthy, the linemen we were able to get healthy, were able to play the following week, even though that they limped into the week. So I think it's very unfortunate that you punish people for just trying to do the right thing. And this wasn't a malicious or vindictive, or it was just a decision to take care of kids.
Yeah, and you make a very salient point. The CIF has the ability to change the rules whenever they want. Having a Linden team play a Tokay team or a Lodi team, that would never be allowed in the past. But because of COVID restrictions and travel requirements that they imposed and all these things that were over it, they just snapped their fingers, and now all of a sudden you can schedule those games, which was the right decision to make. But at the same time, you're also levying these rules that make no sense whatsoever and have no effect on these kids other than negative. It's a negative effect. There's nothing positive about restricting these kids from doing what they want to do. And we're, again, I apologize for kind of getting a little bit, exasperated on this point, but it just really ticks me off that the CIF is able to run roughshod over these programs, and coaches, hats off to you for keeping it together. I wish you would all gather together and tell the CIF that they can take their rules and do what they want.
Well, and this is their thing too, and so this week they get the gate. So they collect the gate for all these playoff games, and so it starts to make you think too. Hey, is this which team's gonna bring the bigger fan base? You know that. So I don't know, man. I'm not trying to be negative about this, but let's go ahead and roll into the D3 bracket that was hot off the press released. Yep. You have Oakdale at the 1. You have Lincoln at the 2. The 3 seed ends up being Manteca. Manteca limps into the playoffs with, Blake Nicholson being hurt. So hopefully Blake gets healthy and they can make their deserved run. You have Yuba City at the 4. Patterson will take on Burbank next week at Patterson. Patterson had a really good season, so that's good for them.
Yeah, they're a tough team.
You have Grace Davis, who again, another team. I think that they were 10-0, and they'll take on Roseville, so they get a home game getting to play Roseville. Sakai, you have Naaman Branyan up there at Sakai. He's going to chuck it around against Golden Valley, and then Christian Brothers takes on Rodriguez. So this is going to be another very difficult bracket. Oakdale seems to be the darling of the bracket in the past, but Oakdale has some. They're not the Oakdale the dominant Oakdale. They were beat by Kimball. I think they got beat by Manteca, or maybe they beat Manteca because of the injury. So I think they have a couple tough losses. And so. But they're also a very well coached team. I mean, you mentioned Coach Mirzon, multiple times, and he'll have these kids clicking on all cylinders. Lincoln of Lincoln's always going to be tough. They just kind of get after it, and then your 3 and your 4, Manteca and Yuba City, are nobody to snub your nose at.
Yeah, a very tough bracket, and it's going to be fun to watch and see how some of these games play out. So. That brings us to the last bracket that we're going to cover for today, the Division I bracket. A little controversy here, I think, in some of the seeding, as I'm sure it is on every bracket, but we'll just run through the bracket and kind of elaborate on it. So you've got the number 1 seed Rockland, the number 2 seed Jesuit, both with byes. The 3 seed is Folsom. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. Does Folsom really deserve the number 3 seed? Or not, that remains to be seen. And then Edison pulls the number 4 seed. Edison is a team right now that's really clicking, and that's a tough out for anyone. You've got Sheldon pulls the number 8 seed, taking on a tough number 9 Turlock team. And then St. Mary's and McClatchy. This is, again, does St. Mary's deserve a 5, or should they have been the number 3? That's going to be the question there. But at the end of the day, you still got to win those games. And right now, St. Mary's is playing really good football. They had a very good game against a really tough Lincoln team who is in the bracket at number 6, taking on Chavez, the 11 seed, and then Del Oro at 7 is taking on Enox, who's the number 10 seed. But this is you might be surprised to hear me say this, but this is a loaded bracket.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that there's a lot of things. Rockland, kind of came out of nowhere. I think a lot of people have always thought Folsom was the darling of the bracket, and Folsom has an injured quarterback. They end up getting beat 3 of their last 4 games coming down the stretch, and they got beat pretty bad. I think the totals were 102-38 in those 4 games, or the 3 games that they lost. So it's not like those games were close games. Lincoln and St. Mary's had a hell of a battle on Friday night. Lincoln pretty much had the game wrapped up, and a couple of unfortunate events gave St. Mary's the chance, and St. Mary's goes ahead and comes back and wins that game late. But what it does is puts the Edison, the potential matchup should St. Mary's get through McClatchy, it puts the game at Edison rather than St. Mary's. So that's a good win. That's a good thing for Edison. Not such a good thing for St. Mary's. I think it'll still be a very, very good game. I don't think that St. Mary or Edison's field's phenomenal, so it's not like you're going to have a field. You're not going to have a home field advantage. The crowds will probably. We're in town, so I'd imagine that the crowds will travel. You have the Turlock team is not the typical Turlock team of old. Sheldon's a very good football team. Both Turlock and Sheldon are both very good teams, but I don't think Turlock is what they've been in the past. Folsom being a little bit down. Lincoln should win that game against Chavez and then go up against Folsom in the second round. So it'd be tough. That's a tough matchup for Lincoln should Folsom get healthy. Enox and Del Oro both playing each other, both like to pass the ball quite a bit. And the winner gets Jesuit, who I got to see in the spring. Good team, solid team. I don't know that they're a 2. We're about to find some things out. And here's the beauty of this is that it's put up or shut up time. I mean, there's not going to be this. I mean, we can talk about this all we want till we're blue in the face, and some of these things may come back and bite us in the butt, and Folsom may run this bracket, and I look like I sit here with egg on my face. But,
hey, good, and if they do, good for them.
Good,
I mean,
true.
we say a lot of things on here, but we really enjoy watching every one of these teams and watching the kids that do well. That's the whole reason why we do this podcast is for these teams, for these players. There's really only one thing that I don't like, and that has been very obvious. If you've ever listened to this podcast, it's just my disdain for the CIF and the way that they do things. But when it comes to teams, we have an affinity for every single one of these teams. Of course, there's some rivalries. We've got our favorite teams that, once they're playing against each other, we might be pulling for one over the other, but really at the end of the day, good for every single one of these teams and every single one of these brackets that have gotten it done this year, that have pulled through a terrible COVID situation and put themselves in position to win a section championship. It's any one of these teams could win it. Unfortunately, there's a couple of teams that won't be in the playoffs this year because of some very poor decision making by our governing body. But you guys hold your heads up high because you were good enough to be in the playoffs. And if there's anything you take away from this, I hope it's that you guys were a playoff team, just kind of got circumvented by the powers that be.
100% agree. And as we head our way out the door, we'd just like to thank everybody for listening. This is our first complete season, regular season. We started this podcast right in the middle of COVID. I mean, we're not the best planners in the world, but to get through this season, I mean, and really, I think it was, in the spring, we saw a lot more cancellations, a lot more craziness. Linden in particular had some hiccups this year. We had a lot of forfeits and having to pick up some late games, but the ability to field or to put a 10-game schedule together in the situation where you have 4 forfeits during the season and teams being willing to travel. Last Friday we had East Nicholas come down. It's a 2-hour and 20-minute drive to come down and play a football game on a Friday night. So a lot of people are doing a lot of good things for these kids. I mean, and we're providing opportunities for these kids to have an outlet, to showcase their talents, an outlet to go ahead and chase their dreams, an outlet to pursue a higher education, an outlet to just kind of be kids, and we've been through some toughness, and everybody in the last 18 to 24 months has lost somebody close to them, has had to deal with the results of COVID, whether it be losing a family member, having a sick family member, or whatever. So I mean, we're persevering people. I mean, we're doing, this is what we do. We're, as a society, we're strong and we're diligent, and we're going to do, we're going to get through when times seem the toughest. And it is unfortunate for teams that got kind of hosed on whether they didn't even make the playoffs or whether they should have made the playoffs and got taken out of the playoffs or something silly. But, we got to keep things in perspective and understand, that this is just the way life works, and we're going to be resilient and just push our way through it. So good luck to everybody this week. Can't wait to see to get done with our game Friday night, hopefully after a win, and just look at Max Preps and see who put it out there. I'll be rooting for my boy over at St. Mary's. Hopefully Cruz, he has a hell of a game just like he did against Lincoln. And hopefully, when this is all said and done, a lot of good, really good football, a lot of people leaving it out on the field, and, for you seniors, cherish these moments. The clock's ticking, it's almost over. So again, thank you everybody for listening. Thanks Scott for being my right-hand man, us holding it down here. Thanks to Frost. Coach Frost out of Escalon, and George Duenas out of Lodi for being on today. Lots of great insight, and we look forward to talking to you guys later next week. Thank you, everybody.